ninth grade. Welcome to your last week of new assignments. So, because we're super close to the end of the year, we are going to have an assignment today and an assignment on Wednesday, and that's it. Then you'll have until May 31st to turn in any and all assignments, and then we're going to calculate your final grades, and then the year will be over. So, for this assignment, you're going to be looking at chapters 28 and 29. Before we talk about that, I want to quickly review the summaries that we had you read last week for chapters 21 through 27. So it may have seemed like a lot, but I promise you it was much less than actually reading those chapters in their entirety. If you did that, bravo to you because you're a superstar. But if you just read these summaries, that's totally fine. That's exactly what we wanted you to do. I want to go over them with you quickly just to make sure you remember everything that happened. So in chapter 21, we know that Tom Robinson was found guilty. The jury came back, they didn't look him in the eye, and they declared him guilty. As Atticus is leaving the courtroom, everyone on the balcony, remember it's the colored balcony, everyone stands up. And this is just a symbol of like their gratitude towards Atticus and their admiration towards him for actually putting up a decent argument for Tom Robinson, whereas a lesser lawyer or someone who is, more racist could have decided to been like, yeah, I'm not going to defend him. It's just like, whatever. But no, Atticus did all the work. He did a really great job. It's just, it didn't work out for them. Then in chapter 22, Bob Yule approaches Atticus and he spits in his face, which is, unfortunate. And then tells him that he would get him if it took the rest of his life. In chapter 23, Atticus kind of works through that threat with his kids. And he says, I took the last shred of credibility or dignity that Bob Yule ever had, if he had any to begin with. But, now I made him look like a fool, essentially, in front of everyone. Like I exposed him and I put his business out there, and now he's really upset with me. Atticus also goes into this idea of how things can change, and if Jem or his friends had been allowed to be on the jury, how things would have been different because their minds haven't been tainted with society and the rules of society or the unspoken time-honored code that we're supposed to follow. He also says that when white people treat Black people as they are less, that makes that white person trash, which is a really radical idea for Atticus to, pronounce openly, loudly during this time frame. He said that it was important that it took the jury a little bit. It means they were kind of considering. They weren't just, quick to decide. Someone in there was really on their side, and that person was a Cunningham. And so Atticus has earned the respect of the Cunningham clan. And now he was able to use that to almost his advantage. And then there's this really poignant thing that Scout says at the end of chapter 23, when Jem is like, there's 4 kinds of folks. And, he goes through that ladder of the Maycomb hierarchy that we've talked about, or the triangle, the power pyramid, about the different kinds of folks. And Scout decides that there is not 4 different kinds of folks. There's just one kind of folks. And the idea that she is, so young, she's probably 8, I want to say, at this point in the novel. The fact that she's able to make that distinction, so young, that we're all the same, is pretty incredible. In chapter 24, Tom Robinson is killed. He's in jail. He's at the prison, and he gets shot 17 times by the guard for trying to run away. So this can really speak to, this idea of police brutality, um, and how that existed then, and how it continues to exist now. Like this idea of excessive force. Yeah, he was a prisoner. Yeah, he was running away. But did anybody really need to be shot 17 times? Probably not. So Atticus takes Cal with him to tell Helen Robinson this. Um, and Atticus was sure that he could have gotten Tom acquitted on appeal. However, that's never going to come to fruition because now Tom Robinson is dead. And then chapter 25, this idea of Tom Robinson's death like spreads throughout like the town. And they're like, yeah, like, it always comes out in him, doesn't matter how good they are. And then the guy who runs the paper, Mr. Underwood, he said that it was a miscarriage of justice, right? That it was a sin to kill cripples no matter what. And he likened Tom's death to the senseless slaughter of songbirds, which we know are mockingbirds. And it's a sin to kill a mockingbird, right? Because they don't do anything but sing beautiful songs for us. And so while Mr. Underwood does not like come right out and say it, he believes that the murder of Tom Robinson was indeed murdered. That this was, not right. That this shouldn't have happened this way. There was no use for Tom Robinson to be dead. And then we get into chapter 27. 26 is like not really that interesting. 27, there are 3 strange things that happened. Let me back up a second. When they interviewed Bob Ewell about the death of Tom Robinson, he said it was 1 down, 2 to go. So he made this like ominous threat that there were 2 more people that he was out to get before he was like done seeking his revenge. So in chapter 27, these 3 weird things happen. 1, Judge Taylor, who was the judge at Tom Robinson's trial, he hears like this weird noise at his home, and he sees like his back door swinging in the breeze, and it appears that someone has like tried to like break into his home. And so his wife finds him at home with a shotgun in his lap. The second thing that happens is that Mr. Ewell gets a job, a WPA job, which is, one of Roosevelt's like alphabet agencies, right? They're meant to like get people out of the Great Depression. But he got a job and then was fired from it. He outwardly blamed Atticus for getting him fired from that job. And then the third thing that happens is that Mr. Link Dees, who is just a neighbor, he hires Helen Robinson as an act of good faith because he feels bad for her, which is fine because he's white and she is black, and white people are allowed to feel bad for black people. So he offers her a job, except when she's like walking to and from the store, Bob Ewell is like really creepy and following her and like saying disgusting, rude, nasty things. And so she tells Mr. Link Dees, and he tells Bob Ewell, like, you better quit, or I'm going to get you arrested. And so Bob Ewell eventually leaves her alone. So all of these things are kind of culminating into these last 4 chapters of the book. There is going to be a Thanksgiving, Halloween play, pageant type thing, where Scout is dressed as a ham. Okay, so she's in this like giant ham hock costume. It has like these little eyes, little eye holes. Okay, and you know what a ham hock is? I hope it has like the bone at the top, so it's like the top of her head, and then it's just like this like red blob looking thing. So Atticus can't take her, and Alexander can't take her, or they don't want to take her. For some reason, she goes with Jem alone through the woods to this pageant. Okay, so it is October. Jem is nearly 13, And so their chapter 27 ends with this idea that they're going on their longest journey together. So that's where chapter 28 picks up, that this is happening. So as you're reading chapter 28, something dramatic is going to happen. There's going to be some type of attack. And that's what your prompt, your analysis today is based on. How does Harper Lee create this mood that is centered around chapter 28? How does she use figurative language to develop the mood and provide at least 3 examples of figurative language? And so I would like to remind you that figurative language can include anything from simile, metaphor, personification, onomatopoeia, to imagery, to symbolism. Okay, it's pretty wide. It's a pretty wide topic. So there are definitions for tone and mood, in case you don't remember what those things are. And there is a stack of questions for you to consider. This does not mean you have to write about any of things or that I want you to answer these questions in paragraph form. That's not what that means. These are just if you are stuck, if you don't know where to start, this is a really good place. These will get your wheels turning, get them moving. Your response should be minimum of 8 to 10 sentences, and it should include textual evidence as necessary. And we are looking at your using language skills, so spelling, grammar, and punctuation are important. Run a spell check. I don't know how else to say it besides run a spelling and grammar check. Run it through Grammarly. Do whatever you got to do. Okay? Make sure it is as proper as you can. Okay? So, if you have questions, we will be available on Google Meet at 10:30. This will be one of your last times to meet with us before the year is over. So, if you have questions about this assignment or about any other assignment related to Kill a Mockingbird, you should come and ask it then, or feel free to email. We'll be available that way too. Happy analysis.